Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel. This is another art video and today we're gonna paint this little yellow Vespa and the photo reference is gonna stay on screen all time. For the materials I am using a 10 by 8 centimeter square of watercolor paper. This is from Archie's, is a 300 GSM pure cotton rough paper. We're gonna use a 2B pencil, any brand will work, and I have here a waterproof inked fountain pen. This has a Fuda nib, which is a little bendy nib for line variations. And of course, two brushes, a mop brush number 6 and a Raphael round brush number 12. And your watercolor palette. I will go through all the colors that we're gonna use step by step, so don't worry. The first thing I like to do is taping down my paper just to keep it square. And start with a very light drawing. I am going probably to get my lines a little bit darker for the sake of this video, but I recommend you to go as light as possible for your initial stage. You can see here how I just am sketching down the main shapes of the Vespa. The triangular part on the top and the square part in the front piece, the roundish shape for the light, and so on and so forth. We don't need to be really precise at this first stage. It's just a matter of getting the proportions right. And you will see going on with the sketch that even my proportions weren't exactly the same as the picture, but we do want a very strong representation of our image. In an ideal world, I would have put the full drawing, I would say a couple of centimeters higher from the bottom, so that I could get that entire wheel on the page, which I didn't. But it's fine, it's just an exercise to get familiar with drawing these motorized object cars, bicycles, bikes, and so on. And I think the important piece and the important thing that I want to transmit is that this is just an exercise for you and for me to get more familiar with drawing simple sketches on the go. And the goal will be actually to bring your watercolor paper, pencil case, your palette everywhere you go and get at the end of the day a little bit of a diary of your travels and your drawing. So you see now how I am kind of refining a little bit the main shapes. I have the main point of contrast, the point of views set down on paper. And now I'm just trying to get a little bit more into the different the different details of the Vespa. Omitting what I can omit and adding where I think is worth to be added. As you can see, I had so much trouble in getting I think is the engine cover or the wheel cover on the back on the right size, and I think I didn't get it, but it's completely fine. As you can see, I am kind of omitting the background. This sketch wants to represent the yellow Vespa itself, and I'm not really looking to get any of the background, although it could be quite interesting to get some very contrasting color. Anyway, when I'm happy with my sketch, I will go in with the inking. And as I mentioned, I use waterproof ink in this drawing. This allows me to layer down layers upon layers of watercolor, and so of water, without really being afraid of smudging the colors or getting weird line stuff that I don't really want. And for this I'm using a food nib pen. If you're not familiar with food nib, it's Oriental, Japanese I think, type of fountain pen which has a little bend on the very tip of the nib. This allows you to get line variations as you bend or keep the nib straight on the page. So as you get a lower angle between your nib and the page, you get a larger line, so more ink will flow on the paper, and the other way around. I really hope this makes a little bit of sense to you. It's a very fun little pen to have in your pencil case, and I always recommend to have at least one. They are extraordinarily inexpensive. I think I got this one from Amazon for about €3. In my drawing, I tend to go back more and more on the very outer edge of my drawing rather than focusing on the inner edge, just to give a little bit of a bolder contour, a bolder border on my paper, on my drawing, and this helps a little bit with bringing everything together at the end with color. I'm sorry if the camera keeps focusing and unfocusing. I still had to figure out which is the best setting for my camera. But once I'm happy with the watercolor, with the drawing, I am starting adding the first layer of color. Very wet paint. Now, very wet, I'm meaning it. A lot of water. And I'm using here just the pure Sennelier Sophie yellow. If you have a cadmium yellow hue, that will work as well. Now you see that my palette on the left side of the screen is quite dirty. I never, and I say never, wash my palette. And this because mixing a little bit the color that you want with the previous colors and whatever you have on your palette already there will in time give you a more organic feeling to your paintings and will bring the color that you use the most together all the time without really being too muddy. So it allows you to get some sort of a style by your own with the color that you choose. I'm not washing my palette, but you can still achieve the same effect here by adding some transparent orange or some cadmium yellow, some cadmium red to your yellow. And this will work a little bit into getting your shade there, your shadows, your darker parts, and so on and so forth. I'm keeping here my play with the Sophie yellow and the transparent orange in order to get some sort of change in tone of color. And I'm filling in everything that I see yellow on the motorbike itself, splashing here and there some darker orange and some lighter yellow as I go. Something many of you ask me is why I never erase my pencil lines. And that is true for many of my drawings. I don't know if there is some science behind that, but I am finding quite difficult not to erase my pencil marks. The moment in which I erase my pencil marks is the moment in which my drawing loses completely its soul and it becomes some sort of a very ugly illustration. I don't know if it's that I just like to have the pencil marks there, or if it actually gives something to the drawing. But I think it's one less step to take into account when you are especially traveling with watercolor. If you are into, I don't know, urban sketching, for example, you don't really need to carry a eraser, a rubber to erase everything. So I don't know, it gives the painting some sort of life more, and as well is one less step, so win-win. As you can see, I'm keeping this game of adding warm and dark yellow to the yellowish part, following more or less where the shadows are. And I find that often is working well for me not to lay down, I don't know, a darker gray or a blue color to highlight the shadows, but rather to play with the tone of colors. So I get a darker yellow for my shadow part and a lighter yellow for the lighter part. It's very rare that I use blue or gray to show where the shadows are. In this case though, I'm using some gray, and this gray is a mix of burnt umber and Prussian blue. It's a great gray that you A, can mix your own yourself, and B, you can change between warmer gray by adding more of the brown color and colder gray by adding more of the bluish color. And this is something that completely changed my art style whenever I found out about this type of creation, I really used gray in a very, how can I say, more personal way, deciding where the darker and warmer parts goes rather than the lighter and colder parts, and it works perfectly for me. So choose a brown and a blue, and you will definitely get a beautiful, beautiful gray. As you can see right here, I just added some more blue to highlight those pieces of metal part in the bike, which are kind of cold, steely type of blue. Although we thought of not adding a background, I kind of came about to add a little bit of this turquoise to my background, just because I think it plays really well with the yellow of the bike, of the Vespa. And yeah, it gives a little bit of an extra depth to the painting, turning what could be an illustration into some more of a finished painting. And it's something that I want you to notice here is how wet the colors are. The yellow is spreading into the blue of the background, the gray of the saddle is spreading into the turquoise of the background. And this is something that I really, really love on my paintings. I don't know if it's a sort of style decision type of thing, but I think it gives some organic feeling to your own illustration, to your own painting, which is a very nice trick in my opinion. If you have a big focal point and you let the water just flow on your background, this will bring everything together a little bit better. Now that the color are more or less dry, I think I let about 10 minutes go, so they're not completely dry, but we are almost there. They're not spreading as much. I'm just adding some of the very darkest pieces on my Vespa. And that is basically it. I don't think I'm gonna touch it too much more. It's just a matter of having the feeling of where do you want your painting to go. I might add some splashes of colors here and there just to recall the main colors of the Vespa, but all in all, this is done. I really, really hope you enjoyed this painting. And if you paint this Vespa with me, please share on your Instagram if you have, or send me an email. I'm always very eager to see and very happy as well to see how my beautiful followers are painting with me. I will see you very soon with another art video, and don't forget to subscribe and follow me around the internet. Bye bye.